The red dust of Mars swirled around the excavation site as Professor Anna Miller stared at the strange symbols etched into the metallic wall. 20 years ago, this discovery had changed everything. She remembered that day clearly. The day humanity realized they weren't alone in the universe. The excavation team had been drilling into what they thought was just another rocky outcrop when their equipment hit something that shouldn't have been there. A perfect hexagonal chamber, buried deep beneath the Martian surface. Inside, they found technology that defied their understanding. "Professor, you need to see this." Tom Baker, her assistant at the time, had called out. His voice trembled with excitement as he brushed away centuries of dust from a control panel. The surface came alive at his touch, holographic displays filling the chamber with a soft blue glow. What they found wasn't just advanced technology, it was a warning. The outpost contained detailed records of an ancient conflict that had raged across the galaxy. A powerful empire had risen, conquered, and fallen long before humans had learned to make fire. But more importantly, the outpost held the keys to defending against such threats. The quantum defense system blueprints were unlike anything human scientists had ever conceived. Instead of traditional weapons, it used the fabric of space-time itself as a defense mechanism. The ancient civilization had created a way to redirect hostile forces without destroying them. A humanitarian approach to warfare that aligned perfectly with humanity's highest ideals. For the next 5 years, the Mars facility became the most important scientific installation in human history. Teams of scientists worked around the clock to understand and adapt the alien technology. Professor Miller led the effort, knowing that every day could count. The galaxy was vast, but not empty, and humanity needed to be ready. The United Earth Defense Force provided cover for their real work. While they publicly launched small defensive satellites and built a modest space fleet, the real defense system took shape in secret. Quantum resonators were carefully positioned throughout the solar system, disguised as research stations or mining operations. Each one was a part of an invisible web that could redirect entire fleets through space-time. "We can't tell anyone the full truth," Admiral Walker had said during one of their early meetings. "If word gets out about what we found, we'll have every power on Earth fighting for control." Professor Miller had agreed. Only a small team knew the full scope of the project. The years passed, and the defense system grew stronger. They tested it in secret, starting with small probes and eventually moving up to unmanned ships. Each test confirmed what the ancient data had promised. The system worked perfectly. When activated, it could send objects anywhere they wanted within 1,000 light years. But the real breakthrough came when Professor Miller discovered something unexpected in the alien data. The quantum fields didn't just move ships through space. They could be tuned to specific types of technology. The more advanced the target, the more effective the field. It was perfect for dealing with technologically superior invaders. "They'll never see it coming," Tom had said during their final system test. "Any advanced fleet will be so focused on our visible defenses that they won't even think to look for quantum fields." He was right. Their primitive-looking defense systems were the perfect disguise. Now, 20 years after their initial discovery, Professor Miller stood in her control center beneath the Martian surface. Screens showed the approaching Imperial fleet, their massive ships moving with the arrogant confidence of those who had never known defeat. They had no idea they were flying into the most sophisticated defense system ever created. She thought about the ancient civilization that had left this gift for humanity. Had they known that one day their technology would protect a young species from the very kind of empire they had fought against? As she watched the fleet approach, she felt a deep sense of responsibility. Humanity would not only defend itself, but would carry forward the ancient mission of protecting the galaxy from those who would conquer it. The quantum defense system hummed softly, waiting to be activated. Everything was ready. 20 years of preparation were about to pay off, and the Imperial fleet was about to learn a very important lesson about underestimating Earth. High Commander Marcus Reed stood at the command center of his flagship, the Imperial Devastator. His cold eyes studied the blue-green planet displayed on the main screen. Earth. His former home. A slight smile crossed his face as he thought about how things had changed in the 30 years since he'd left. The massive view screen showed his fleet, 10,000 warships stretching out into space like a metal galaxy. Each ship was a masterpiece of Imperial engineering, carrying enough firepower to level a continent. They had conquered 300 worlds with this fleet, and not once had they failed. "Status report," Reed ordered, his voice carrying the refined accent of the Imperial court. He had worked hard to lose his Earth accent, to become something greater than just another human. "All ships report ready, High Commander," his first officer replied. "We are passing the gas giant Jupiter now. Earth's primitive detection systems have surely spotted us." Reed nodded, remembering Earth's defensive capabilities, or lack thereof. Their satellites were basic, their space fleet tiny. In the 30 years he'd been gone, they had advanced so little. It was almost disappointing. "Send the battle groups into standard conquest formation," Reed commanded. "Let them see the full might of the Imperial fleet. It should help them make the right decision about surrendering." The fleet moved with perfect precision, spreading out into an attack pattern they had used countless times before. Reed watched the formation take shape on his tactical display. It was beautiful, like a deadly dance in space. "Sir, we're detecting their defensive fleet," an officer reported. 20 ships, all showing basic weapon signatures, nothing that could harm even our smallest vessel. Reed laughed. He had expected more from his homeworld. "Show me," he ordered. The screen shifted to show Earth's defenders, a pathetic collection of ships that looked like toys compared to the Imperial vessels. Their sensors showed primitive nuclear drives, basic energy shields, and weapon systems that belonged in a museum. "Their main defensive fleet is positioning itself between Mars and Earth," another officer reported. "They appear to be trying to create a defensive line." "How brave, and how futile," Reed said, shaking his head. "Send the standard surrender demand. Give them 1 hour to respond. Though I doubt they'll need that long once they realize what they're facing." The message was sent, carried on powerful transmission beams that would be impossible for Earth to ignore. Reed remembered the day he had first seen an Imperial fleet, 30 years ago. He had been a young Space Force captain then, commanding a small exploration vessel that ventured too far from Earth. The Imperial ships had appeared like angels of death, beautiful and terrible. But instead of fighting, he had seen an opportunity. He surrendered his ship and offered his services to the Empire. His knowledge of Earth and human psychology had proved valuable, and he had risen quickly through the ranks. Now he commanded the very fleet he had once feared. "High Commander, we're detecting some unusual energy readings from the Mars region," a sensor officer reported. "Very faint, probably just background radiation from their mining operations." Reed waved his hand dismissively. "Their industrial efforts are irrelevant. Focus our scans on their military installations. I want to know every defensive position before we begin our attack." The fleet continued its advance, moving past the orbit of Mars. Reed studied the tactical displays, already planning where he would place his occupation forces. The major cities would need to be controlled first, then the military bases. Earth would fall within days, just like all the others. "Sir, still no response to our surrender demand," his communications officer reported. "They're probably arguing about it in their global council," Reed said with a smirk. "Politicians never change, on any world. Continue the advance. Prepare all ships for combat operations." The Imperial fleet moved forward with unstoppable momentum. 10,000 ships, each a miracle of engineering, each carrying enough firepower to reduce cities to ash. They had never failed, never lost, never even faced a serious challenge. Reed looked at his home planet again, growing larger on the main screen. Soon, very soon, Earth would join the Empire. And if they resisted, well, he had no problem making an example of his former home. Sometimes the best way to rule was through fear, and the Empire had perfected the art of creating fear. Admiral James Walker stood in Earth's main defense command center, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The massive room buzzed with controlled activity as hundreds of operators monitored their stations. The giant screen in front showed the Imperial fleet's approach, a sea of red dots moving steadily closer to Earth. Still no response to their demand. "Sir," reported his communications officer, Robert West. "They're probably getting impatient." "Good," Walker said, allowing himself a small smile. "Let them think we're scared or disorganized. Every minute they spend waiting is another minute for our systems to map their fleet completely." The command center's artificial lighting reflected off the polished surfaces of the monitoring stations. Each screen showed different aspects of the defense grid: power levels, quantum field alignments, and shield frequencies. To anyone watching from space, these readings would look like normal background noise. "Admiral, Professor Miller's team reports all quantum resonators are at full power," said Technical Officer Lisa Brown. Her fingers moved quickly across her control panel, adjusting settings that would look meaningless to anyone who didn't know their true purpose. "They're disguised as mining operations and research stations, just as planned." Walker nodded, remembering the years of preparation that had led to this moment. The Imperial fleet had no idea they were flying into a web of quantum fields that could tear their formation apart in seconds. "Status of Protocol Omega?" he asked, walking to the central tactical display. "All systems green," Brown replied. "The quantum grid is fully charged and ready. Professor Miller has confirmed that the enemy's advanced technology will actually make them more vulnerable to the fields." Walker studied the tactical display. The Imperial fleet was massive, far bigger than anything they had expected. But size wouldn't matter once the quantum fields activated. In fact, the more ships they brought, the more impressive their disappearance would be. "Sir, new message from the Imperial fleet," West called out. "Their high commander is demanding to know why we haven't responded. He's threatening to target major cities as a demonstration of their power." Walker's face hardened. "Put it on the main screen. Let's see what our visitor has to say." The screen flickered, and the image of High Commander Reed appeared. His Imperial uniform was immaculate, his expression confident and slightly amused. "This is your final warning," he said. "Your silence is being taken as an act of defiance. You have 5 minutes to surrender, or we will reduce one of your cities to ash as an example." Walker looked at the man who had betrayed humanity so many years ago. Reed's accent had changed, becoming more refined, more imperial. But his arrogance was exactly what they had counted on. "Send no response," Walker ordered after the transmission ended. "But make sure our defensive fleet looks appropriately nervous. Have them adjust their formation as if they're preparing for a hopeless last stand." The small fleet of Earth ships began to move, their formation showing signs of uncertainty and fear. It was all part of the act, making the Imperial fleet believe their victory was assured. "Admiral," Brown called out, her voice excited. "The quantum resonance readings are perfect. Their ships are generating exactly the kind of energy signatures we need. The fields will be able to target them with 99% accuracy." Walker moved to her station, checking the readings himself. The Imperial ship's advanced power systems were practically begging to be affected by the quantum fields. Their own technology would be their undoing. 3 minutes until their deadline, sir," West reported. "Begin powering up the visible defense grid," Walker ordered. "Make it look good, like we're desperately trying to create some kind of energy shield. Let them think that's all we have." The command center hummed with energy as the visible defenses activated. They were real enough, fusion-powered shield generators and energy weapons, but they were just for show. The real defense system remained invisible, waiting. 1 minute, sir," West said. Walker straightened his uniform and looked at the main screen. Somewhere up there, Reed was probably already planning which city to destroy. He had no idea that his mighty fleet was about to become a legend, a warning to any other empire that might think of attacking Earth. "All stations, prepare for Protocol Omega," Walker commanded. Let's show them why you should never underestimate Earth. Professor Anna Miller stood at her control station in the Mars facility, watching as the final pieces of their plan fell into place. The Imperial fleet hung in space like a swarm of angry wasps, their massive ships reflecting the distant sunlight. They had no idea they were already caught in an invisible web. All quantum resonators showing green status, reported her chief technician, Paul Wright. He worked at a station covered in displays showing complex energy patterns. The fleet is perfectly positioned within the field matrix. Miller nodded, her hand steady as she began the activation sequence. Around her, the Mars facility hummed with power drawn from deep underground generators. These same generators had been disguised as mining operations for the past 20 years, their true purpose hidden from prying eyes. Energy readings from the Imperial fleet, she asked, watching as more data flowed across her screens. Their power systems are running at full capacity, Wright answered. They're charging weapons, just as we predicted. Their energy signatures are perfect for our quantum fields to lock onto. Through the facility's windows, Miller could see the quantum resonators rising from their hidden underground chambers. To any observer, they looked like simple communication arrays or research equipment. But each one was a key part of the most sophisticated defense system ever built. Alert from Earth Defense Command, called out Communications Officer Mary Turner. The Imperial fleet has begun targeting major cities. Their weapons are powering up. Miller allowed herself a small smile. They're right where we want them. Their own weapon systems will make the quantum transfer even more effective. She opened a secure channel to Admiral Walker's command center on Earth. This is Professor Miller. We are ready to begin. The main display showed the quantum field web spreading through space. It was invisible to normal sensors, but the facility's special equipment revealed it as a beautiful network of interconnected energy patterns. The Imperial fleet floated in the center of the web, completely unaware. Start the power-up sequence, Miller ordered. Remember, slow and steady. We don't want them detecting any sudden energy spikes. The quantum resonators began to pulse with energy, each one carefully timed. The energy built up gradually, masking itself in the background radiation of space. Years of testing had shown them exactly how to hide the buildup from even the most advanced sensors. Imperial ships are beginning to move into attack positions, Wright reported. Their formation is spreading out, just as planned. Miller watched as the enemy fleet executed their standard attack pattern. It was perfect. Spreading their ships out meant more of them would be caught in the quantum fields. Their own tactical doctrine would work against them. Energy levels at 60%, called out another technician. Fields are stable and growing. The facility's lights dimmed slightly as more power flowed into the quantum grid. Deep beneath the Martian surface, ancient machinery merged with human engineering, creating something the galaxy had never seen before. Message from the Imperial fleet, Turner announced. They're starting their final countdown. Weapons lock on major Earth cities detected. Let them think they have the upper hand, Miller said calmly. 80% power. How are the field harmonics? Perfect alignment, Wright confirmed. Their ship's energy signatures are actually helping to strengthen our fields. It's like they're helping us trap them. The quantum web was almost complete now. Each Imperial ship sat at the center of its own quantum field, ready to be redirected through space-time. The more power they pumped into their weapons, the stronger the quantum lock became. 90%, called out Wright. Field stability at optimal levels. Miller opened the channel to Earth again. Admiral Walker, quantum grid is nearly ready. You may begin your part of the operation. She watched as Earth's small defensive fleet began to move, looking like they were making a desperate last stand. The Imperial ships adjusted their positions in response, unknowingly moving into perfect alignment with the quantum fields. Power levels at maximum, Wright reported. All systems are ready. Miller took a deep breath, thinking about the ancient civilization that had given them this technology. They had trusted humanity to use it wisely, and that trust was about to be repaid. Begin final activation sequence, she ordered. Let's show the galaxy that Earth is not as helpless as they think. The quantum resonators pulsed with hidden power, ready to spring the trap that would become a legend throughout the galaxy. High Commander Reed noticed something was wrong when the first ship disappeared. It happened silently, without explosion or drama. One moment the Imperial striker was there. The next it simply vanished, leaving behind only a slight shimmer in space. Before he could process what had happened, two more ships disappeared in the same way. "Report," he shouted, standing up from his command chair. "What's happening to our ships?" His sensor officers worked frantically at their stations, but their advanced equipment showed nothing unusual. There were no energy weapons, no conventional attacks. Ships just kept disappearing. "Sir, we're detecting some kind of field effect," one officer called out. It's everywhere. Our sensors can't identify the pattern." Reed watched in horror as entire squadrons of ships began to vanish. The mighty Imperial fleet was being picked apart, not by weapons or violence, but by something he couldn't even understand. "Full power to shields," he ordered. "Begin emergency retreat." But it was too late. The quantum fields had locked onto every ship's energy signature. The more power they pumped into their shields, the stronger the effect became. Ships vanished faster and faster, leaving behind only slight distortions in space. "Sir, we're losing contact with all battle groups," his communications officer reported, panic in his voice. 8,000 ships. No, 9,000 ships have vanished." Reed stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His magnificent fleet was disappearing before his eyes. Earth's pathetic defensive fleet hadn't fired a single shot, yet they were being defeated completely. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Earth doesn't have this kind of technology. They couldn't have developed this in just 30 years. Then he remembered the strange energy readings they had detected near Mars, the mining operations that didn't quite make sense, the research stations that seemed too numerous. All of it had been part of this trap. "Sir," his first officer shouted, "we're detecting the same field effect building around our ship." Reed felt a strange tingling sensation throughout his body. Through the view screen, he could see space itself beginning to bend and twist around the Imperial Devastator. His mighty flagship, the pride of the Imperial fleet, was about to join the others. "No," he said softly, finally understanding. "They were ready for us. They were ready all along." The Imperial Devastator vanished with a quiet ripple in space, taking the High Commander and his dreams of conquest with it. The few surviving scout ships at the edge of the system watched in terror as the last of the main fleet disappeared. In less than 10 minutes, the largest and most powerful fleet in the galaxy had vanished without firing a single shot. 3 months after the Imperial fleet's disappearance, Admiral Walker stood before the United Earth Council. The chamber was packed with representatives from every nation, all eager to hear his report. "The quantum defense system worked perfectly," he explained. Each Imperial ship was redirected to a different uninhabited system, scattered across thousands of light years. They have enough supplies to survive, but their weapons and faster-than-light drives were disabled by the quantum transfer. Professor Miller, standing beside him, added, "We've received confirmation that the scattered ships have begun sending distress signals. As planned, these signals are carrying a very specific message to the galaxy." The message was simple. Earth was protected by technology beyond Imperial understanding. Any attempt to attack would result in the same fate, not destruction, but displacement. It was a demonstration of power coupled with mercy, showing that humanity could defend itself without resorting to violence. "What about the Imperial Empire's response?" asked one of the council members. "They're in chaos," Walker answered. "The loss of their main fleet, along with High Commander Reed, has shattered their confidence. More importantly, the few scout ships that escaped are spreading stories about Earth's mysterious defense system." Miller stepped forward. "The quantum defense grid has become known as the Great Filter throughout the galaxy. Any aggressive fleet that enters our solar system will simply vanish. We've created the perfect defensive system, one that protects without destroying. The council chamber buzzed with excited conversation. Earth had not only defended itself, but had done so in a way that would prevent future attacks without causing unnecessary death. There's more, Miller continued. The ancient civilization that left us this technology, they weren't just giving us a way to defend ourselves. They were choosing us for a greater purpose. She activated a holographic display, showing various star systems. We've discovered more outposts like the one on Mars. Each one contains different aspects of their technology. They wanted humanity to become the guardians they once were, protectors of younger civilizations against Imperial aggression. Walker nodded. Already, 3 different species have contacted us, asking for protection from similar empires in their regions of space. They want us to help them set up their own quantum defense systems. The council members looked at each other, understanding the responsibility that had been placed on humanity. They had been given this power not to conquer, but to protect. The age of empires is ending, Miller said. Earth will lead the galaxy into a new era, one where civilization grows through cooperation, not conquest. 1 year later, the first Earth protection fleet set out into the galaxy. But unlike the Imperial ships they had defeated, these vessels carried quantum resonators, ready to help other worlds defend themselves. The ancient civilization's legacy lived on through humanity, spreading peace through defense rather than war through aggression. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, scattered across countless star systems, the ships of the mighty Imperial fleet drifted as permanent reminders. Earth was not to be underestimated, and humanity had chosen to be guardians rather than conquerors. In the Mars facility, now a training center for new quantum engineers, Professor Miller often looked at the ancient symbols that had started it all. They had transformed humanity from a vulnerable civilization into the protectors of the galaxy. It wasn't the ending anyone had expected, but it was the one the galaxy needed. Admiral Walker, standing at his command center window watching Earth's new defensive fleet prepare for another protection mission, smiled. They had done more than just defend Earth. They had changed the very nature of power in the galaxy. The quantum defense system wasn't just a weapon. It was a statement about humanity's values. They had chosen to disable rather than destroy, to protect rather than conquer. The galaxy was changing, one quantum field at a time, and humanity was leading the way into a better future.